issue with status that is more psychology than your textbook, so we need to make sure we cover it, is figuring out where you are in the status hierarchy. And one way one tries to do this is how well you're doing financially, how well you're doing with your course in life. So very often people will ask, how well am I doing? And they'll judge themselves by their neighbors, their peers, and so forth. So that's what we want to look at. So to go back to your 16, 17, 14, I don't know when y'all read Catcher in the Rye the first time, or if you haven't read it yet. When do you remember?
Yeah,
7 years ago. I mean, so help me out with the math. I don't know how old you are now, so that variable
like
is...
junior year in high school.
So junior year would be 17-ish?
Yeah.
17, right? So go back, so you're 17, and you're probably still in this place now. You're like, what do I want to be when I grow up? You know, how is my life going to take me? You reach a certain phase in life where what you actually do is the reverse thing. So anyone read The Divine Comedy so how old was Dante in the story?
It was in the middle of his life.
The middle of his life, right? He's like, I've reached the middle of my life, and he's like, how well am I doing? So you're getting to a point in your life where it's not going to be, what will I do, but where you're going to start really going, how well am I doing? So, like, if you think back to high school, like your 5-year reunion, why go to your 5-year reunion? But 10-year, now people are starting to spread out. 15 years, starting to spread out. I'm now at my 20th high school reunion. I'm old. How many times do I have to tell you this? Like, you look up like, really? Well, you do the math. I graduated when I was 18. I'm about to be 40, so in 2 months, feel free to give gifts. But one of the things we do is we go, hey, is my life turning out the way that I wish? And in this, I love music, and we're going to do a whole lecture on music coming up here. But I'll give you this one song to listen to in this particular context of how well is my life turning out. It's an old number by Elton John. Love Elton John. I think I've mentioned that many times. The song's called Roy Rogers. I'll have to set this up. Do y'all know who Roy Rogers is? What? The restaurant chain. That is one use of Roy Rogers. Who is Roy Rogers?
Was he an actor?
It's an actor in a television show back in the late 60s, early 70s. And what really makes me sad about this song, every time I hear it, I have this little sense of, sadness, is this line down here where he's like 9 o'clock mornings, 5 o'clock evenings, I'd live in the pace if I could. This is the line, every time I hear this next line, there are lines in songs that you hear and you go, oh man, that just hits you. He's like, I'd rather have ham in my sandwich than cheese, but complaining wouldn't do any good. I always imagine this guy who every day goes to work and he really wishes he could have ham in his sandwich, but he can't afford it. But he's got carpet, he's got his little Barca lounger, and that's the rest of his life. But he just goes home and watches TV, and that's how he lives. Makes me sad. He can afford cheese.
Jesus is expensive. Like, I went to Walmart and I was like, are you serious?
Not compared to ham.
I mean, well, he should add match. Coupon. Do something.
Why do you have to ruin my song here? I'd rather have ham, but I don't know how to add match. See, that just didn't fit the scheme here. Now, you know what? Now you're going to have to come, since, did you do the memorizing the song in the learning class? No, see, now you have to memorize this one and come in and do it for me. You're gonna have to, oh, see, but you're a singer, so you're going to have to actually sing this one for me. All right, don't, excuse me. Don't walk in front when, that's fine. All right. See, but you're a singer, so I'm going to make you sing. All right, so you have her agreeing on tape. All right. I was saying no over and over. Well, All right, so what are some traits we use to judge? Well, there are certain traits that are going to be more essential to what you believe is important about where you are in life. So if you're a singer, you might, when you meet people, guess what questions you're going to ask them? When you meet someone, do you ask if they sing?
No.
Really? Okay, here's one that's really sort of current. People who get into CrossFit. So these people,
What is that?
It's amazing.
it's an exercise regimen. But whenever people really get into CrossFit, they often get very serious about it. And one of the things they do is everyone does this, doesn't matter, CrossFit is just one example. They start using this to judge others on how much they work out. What about school? When you meet people, do you ask if they're in school?
Yes.
I mean, that would be one. But what psychologists have found is the traits that are most central to you are the ones that you tend to ask people about. So if it's very important to you that people read, like when I meet people, I go, what book are you reading? Or what music do you listen to? Because that's very essential. I love music, and that's very, very essential. Towards other people, could not care less. Those people sadden me. You know, they go, oh, like, what music do you listen to? I'll tell you the answer that makes me most mad. We'll go, I listen to everything. I just want to like punch people who say that.
Why?
Because you don't listen to everything.
What about little things?
But there are certain things that you like, right? There's music that you buy. There's music that you seek out.
You can still like a whole lot of music that you listen to as far as genre goes. But
Everything, though, would literally mean like
well, your
you have.
definition of everything is different from what someone else's definition.
And my definition of everything means everything.
Thing.
I mean, you're right. I can see how that would cause confusion. Right? I think so. You listen to Chinese flute music, maybe you do. And I don't know why rap gets. Like a lot of my friends like listen to everything but rap and country.
Yeah,
Country is amazing. They have the best stories ever.
I'm with you. I don't understand why those two get singled out. All I know is I'm like when people say everything. Anyway, moving along. Friendships. What's also interesting is the traits that are most relevant to us often influence our friendships. And here's what's going to be really interesting is the traits that are most central to you will vary depending on the context you're in. So if you were to go to Russia and you were to meet another American person, guess what? Guess who you'd probably talk to? Them. It didn't matter what all you had in common. It's like, well, now that trait is going to unite us. Also, the traits that are most central can conflict with each other. So if you see yourself as a generally fair, nice person and you're thrust in a role where you have to make hard decisions, you may have an issue here. So you may go, I really want to be seen as nice because that's really essential, but I have to fire you. So this could be some issues with your traits. What is it about these? Has anyone had to fire anyone? Was it the worst day so far? No? No? They deserved
I
it?
see business as business, so if not, I'll party
I had to fire a guy who was just really intimidating, so I think it was a different situation. So I was kind of scared for my life. That was a little bit.
No, what it's about. All right, I'll let you know. What's interesting is that we very often compare ourselves to others around us. So I might look at the people in my neighborhood and go, how well am I doing relative to them? If you have siblings, right? You go, well, how well am I doing compared to my brothers, sisters, and so forth. But here's where it gets to be interesting. Is there an objective way to compare myself to other people? An objective way, right? So, like, let's say I'm wondering whether or not I make enough money. Right? I can compare myself to the median salary in America. I could compare myself to other professors. But is any of these more objective? I want to know, am I making enough money for a 39-year-old male? Because you mentioned money last time as one of these factors. So I want to know. Well, let's think about it. If I want to feel really good about myself, who might I compare myself to? Oh, no. But which peers? Which peers?
If you're working somewhere, if you're in
a professor, the different other professors, or maybe someone from your own field, or maybe your best friend, or your siblings.
I mean, so, but no, okay, I want to feel good. So I want to feel good about where I'm at in life. So who might I compare myself to? You know, I might compare myself enemies, or I could go, you know, I live out in the Center Point, Clay, Chalkville, weird conglomeration area. And if you drive down Center Point Parkway, if you've ever done this, what is down Center Point Parkway?
Which way? Which direction?
So I got off the freeway, I've gone left towards the Walmart, and there's what is all down that area? Right, it's pawn shops, liquor stores, check cashing places. So if I want to feel good about where I am, I might say, well, at least I don't have to pawn my one of my siblings had to pawn, he would pawn his, it wasn't even Xbox, whatever was before Xbox. Yeah, it wasn't PS3, but I think it was a PlayStation. But he would pawn it and buy it, pawn it and buy it. So if I want to feel good about myself, I might say, well, at least I don't have to, you know, do this. So what I might actually do is do a downward social comparison. And this might make me feel nice about myself. Is that fair, though? Right? Because I can selectively choose the group of people that I want to compare myself against. So let's say I'm comparing myself to my other peers. And they've published 4 articles in the past year, have gone to 6 conferences, and I haven't. How might I feel? I might feel bad. So if I'm doing an upward social comparison, I might actually start feeling worse about myself. Is there any objective way, though? Right? So let's say I decide I'm going to compare myself to a median salary in America, and let's say I make less.
Well, cost of living is going to be different across the board, so you can't look at that.
So cost of living, I go, well, that includes people in New York and people in whatever. What else might I do, though? Right. I don't work a 9-to-5 job, I will tell you that much. Right? So I may go, well, you know, I may make a little less money, but actually, isn't it really 8 to 5?
Yeah.
And I discovered that one the hard way. I was like mad one day. I was like, why are these people on the road at 8 in the morning? And someone's like, they're going to work. I'm like, why are they going at 8?
But some people have families, so even though they have more money, it's actually not really benefiting them. So would you?
Yeah, so if I were to compare, you know, so if I want to feel better, I might say, you know, well, you know, I don't have to spend money on diapers and all of that stuff. But we're really trying to go, is there a way to do an objective social comparison of how well you're doing? Right, so let's say that your friends, or let's say you're worried that you drink too much. Is there an objective way to figure out if you do? And let's assume that you're not missing work, you're not crashing cars, you're not... And you're not drinking, awesome. You're like, I don't know, like you've eliminated all the variables that I would use, right? But you might have some of your friends who they see, you know, you're trying to, you start telling a story and you're like, oh my word, I had like, you know, 5 beers, and they're like, in a day? And you're like, yeah. Versus other friends might respond the way you're doing. So is there a way,
You could look at like your past, like have you remained consistent at that level or gone up?
but we need to know if that level is high or low. And you could, if one of your friends got on to you saying it was too high, you could always point to another one. You could do a social comparison to go, oh, you think 5's a lot, you should see my friend Emily, who, you know, she's drinking one right now in class, you know. I can't even deny it. You're like right here in this glass the second, versus if someone's like getting on to you for being, I don't know why they get on to you for being too low.
I don't think there is a way, because you would have to have like criteria.
Yeah, what criteria?
You only had 2 beers, that kind of thing.
That works. I
There
can
are
tell.
people who think 2 beers is too many.
There's people who think it's too little too.
Yeah, I mean, so like, but my issue here is if you're trying to figure out if you have a problem, like so let's say someone's accused you of having one, what could you always do?
Compared to the people you drink with?
Yeah, compared to other people you drink with. And so we really have this issue what we're going to see here, and why I'm sort of staying on this for a second, is it's really hard for us to get a really accurate picture of how well we're doing because we have various social comparisons we can make, and if we want to make ourselves look good, we do one set of things, and so forth.